here, and today we're doing a officer tier list, and I'm going to be doing a breakdown of which officers you should be doing first, how I rate them on a rating scale of S, A, B, and C, and D. And I'm going to break them down by the time frame they release. So that means from the very beginning when you open the game to 182 days or second gen at 300 days. And the reason why I'm doing this is because when you hit 182 days, you have an intermediate account. And then when you hit 300 days, you're considered to have an advanced account. So we're going to start this off by listing the officers that are available at the beginning of the game when you start a fresh account. So first, Percy, Antonina, and also Tip of Spear, which is right here. Antonina is right here. Percy is right here. Jack Spanner is another that you start with. Angel of Light, War Machine, White Wolf, Eruptor, the newly added Tiger Marauder, Guardian of Truth, Death Adder, and Bloody Mary. On the Air Force side, you will have Brisk Eagle, Golden Pixie. You will have Wings of Glory, Heaven Savior, and that is the officers for Legacy. Now, the officers I recommend you awaken for Legacy are actually going to be very unique. Okay, and this is a very cut dry. I'm going to start with ground officers first, then we're going to go to Air Force. Very first officer you should awaken is Antonina. Antonina should be your first officer because she has the unique ability of increasing your already map grid range to +1. So that means if you're using a rocket truck, it will hit 4 grids, ATG 4 grids, and a howitzer 5. Now, all artillery pieces, whether it's ATG, rocket truck, or howitzer, cannot go over 5 grids. But her skill, there's only 2 officers in the game that give this skill, and it's very powerful. Once she's on your howitzer, she'll be doing tons of damage. Or any artillery piece, I recommend the rocket truck because it does the most structured damage. It's good at field fighting, but it is very squishy, and she's an absolute powerhouse to have on there. Now, I'm going to quickly state at the beginning, um, all exclusive officers are S tier, and they're not going to be included on this list because they're very hard to get, and this is more so aimed towards, from my perspective, as a very light spender going on forward. So we're gonna make this list going on down the line, and it's going to each officer's rating is going to change as we go on to the higher tier officers. So like 182 days, an officer's rank might drop down. So let me explain that now. So again, all exclusive officers are S tier. Doesn't matter what rank you are, they are going to be S tier. We're not going to even talk about them. But Antonina, S tier, because of her map grid range and her skills. Because she does a ton of damage, very well worth it. Next, for the S tier, I would honestly recommend Guardian of Truth. You do have to pay for him in the VIP section, but his cost is way more effective, and you can spread out the payments over time. He's always going to be available. You don't have to wait for him for a special event to unlock his skills. And his skills, even today as an advanced account, from the beginning of the game, almost 3 years ago, he has been a powerhouse. He is still a staple today. He is still S-Class all the way through. Him and Antonina, their S-Class ranks do not change. Now, the next one I recommend as an S-Class, and I'll explain why, is actually Tiger Marauder. Tiger Marauder is an S-Class because once you awaken him, his main skill will do the most damage out of all officers on this lineup base. not in combination of other officers, but base. He will do more damage than Guardian of Truth. And I'm talking about his tactical scale damage, by the way. He'll do more damage than Guardian Truth. He will do more damage than Antonina at base. At base. But he also has solid skills that will help along the road as he drops down. So when he hits day 182, his skills drop from being S class to an A rank. And when he hits 300 days, in my opinion, he will drop down to a B ranking because then there's way more officers to choose from, and its skills are slightly less valuable. Tip of the Spear. Tip of the Spear is a very good officer. His skills are very unique. I would personally, a lot of people favor him with War Machine on any ground officer, but how I use him is unique. I would use him in combination of an other officer on defense, and I haven't really started my defensive officers. You can see I have Steel Fighter done, but that's not how I would want to. I want to use him on a defensive mode. Therefore, he's not really a priority to me right now. So he's a solid A rank all the way through. Percy, one of the first officers you're going to ever have awaken just by simply leveling up an officer to level 60. Her skill set is more so on the defensive side and as a supporting role. Great tank officer to start off as just for a tanking basis. And the person I would combo this with would be with Spanner. Speaking of Spanner, Spanner is S tier because he is one of the few officers all the way through the game that actually provides active healing on your tanks. His skills are invaluable. I'm still been using him on my helicopter before I had got awakened Valkyrie. I was using him in a combo pairing with Guardian of Truth. Did very well with that pairing, and he's good on whether you're tanking bases with him in the field and you just want more survivability. He's a solid option. Next is Angel of Light. She is an infantry officer, but is like Spanner. She does a ton of healing for infantry, but a lot of people back in the old days, the meta used to be Spanner and Angel of Light together, and that would provide a double heal. You can still use this method, but it's not as effective now as other combos out there. She's a solid C tier for me because I don't use infantry, but I am going to acknowledge her effectiveness in the beginning. And she'll stay this way all the way through. War Machine. He is one of the most versatile officers, and he is an S tier. And you get him right from the start. You can buy his statues in the Alliance store, or you can put universal statues in him. I do not recommend using universal statues, but he is an S tier, and I wish I had awakened him sooner, but now with the skill tab system, he is even more valuable because you can use the reload, you can add damage to your troops, and troop damage is a very rare trait. He also buffs firepower. His tactical skill does a good amount of damage and also boosts reload. So insanely effective officer whether he's on tanks, artillery, or even infantry. So very good officer. White Wolf. Back in the old days, she had everyone loved putting her on artillery because there wasn't a lot of artillery officers. Because in the beginning of the game, there was only Antonina and Eruptor. So they would use her for her tactical skill and her troop damage to boost up a unit's damage. But as an infantry officer, she is kind of lackluster to me. She's good and solid all rounder, but she isn't very useful to me. So she is a C rank as well with Angel of Light. Sorry, it took me a second to think of her name. Eruptor. He is the second artillery officer. His best paired with Antonina. He has a unique thing that actually is effective on all artillery pieces because artillery pieces do not do direct damage, they do blast damage. So that's let me explain that real quick. That will be his skill radius buff, like the kill radius. So that means it's a bigger, does a little bit more damage as the blast damage hits. So therefore, that's a little bit explained. His skills are pretty lackluster. His tactical skill is not that good, but he offers a reload as a reload skill as an awakened skill, which is good. And a lot of people still use him on with Antonina because of this. For me, he's an A class, not S class, but he's very good. Death Adder, A class, and I'll explain why. He has a unique skill that increases penetration damage. He's there's only roughly 3 to 4 officers in the game with balance skills. Very solid. He also offers troop damage, so all his skills are valuable, and they would go all the way through. So from 182 days to 300 days, even in the beginning, he is a very valuable officer. His tactical skill of Sundered Armor actually is very useful because it reduces the damage resistance, but it also increases his speed. Now, as I said in my battle tactics video, to increase your kills and reduce your deaths, you need to be micromanaging your units. So he's letting you weave in and out of combat and do more damage and reduce the damage resist of your opponents. So that is a hugely valuable skill, and he's very highly misunderstood. A lot of people like to pair him with Percy on an ATG just because of the penetration damage and the damage resist. But I recommend him on MBTs, light tanks, and even helicopters if you need a filler while you're on awakening other officers for that. Bloody Mary. Bloody Mary is a unique officer that is very good and in her own way. She does start losing some effects down the road because not a lot of people will use her because there's stronger options. But in the beginning of the game, she is very good. Um, Her skill disorients the enemy so they can't attack you, and also prevents them from like releasing their charge skill when awakened. So that's very good. She offers troop damage. She has a passive heal like Spanner, which is very valuable, and she also increases speed. The best combo in the beginning game for her, once you hit your first Moscow, would be her with Winter Huntsman, who is what we're going to next. Winter Huntsman. Winter Huntsman, he is unlocked in the L4, your very first L4 of Moscow. His main tactical skill actually freezes the opponent in place when released. He does very good damage. A lot of people in the old days used to love comboing him with um, Winter, Winter Huntsman with Guardian of Truth. But now I can see this changing to actually being Tiger Marauder. Because now you don't have to wait for Moscow. You can actually put Tiger Marauder with Guardian of Truth and have an excellent skill damage, excellent damage resist, and XYZ. But back to Winter Huntsman, he does offer damage resist. He offers a good balance skill, and it's unique because if you look at Death Adder and also Winter Huntsman, their balance skills are flipped. One offers higher HP and lower firepower. One offers higher firepower and lower HP. But he's also one of the few officers with a passive skill of passive healing, and very good officer. But I recommend that you do not invest Universal statues with him because now within L4 events you can unlock him for free just by buying the statues for him, and that's what I'm doing, and that's the best way to awaken this officer. Now, Brisk Eagle is a legacy officer. I highly recommend you awaken her. She's a versatile officer. I recommend her for fighter planes and bombers, but in the beginning. But her true powers will be on a bomber, which I would recommend with Golden Pixie. She is A class because of her versatility. She doesn't really fall off, but there is a better option with bombers for her. But she also is very good on fighter planes as well. Golden Pixie, with in the within the beginning, I wouldn't recommend awakening her because yes, she does have the one unique skill of adding an additional bombing run, but the Liberty Bomber now is kind of less efficient. It's still very prevalent within the first 182 days of the game. She is still very good, but I would only awaken her for her skills, and she would fall down to a C class to me right after 182 days, and I'll explain that later in this video. Now, in the beginning, you also get Wings of Glory. He is very quickly a B class officer just because of his skills. He's not good overall. He's good in the beginning, but he falls off very quickly. So he would like start off as an A, go down to B, and then stay there. Heaven Savior. Heaven Savior, I would actually rate him a C class. He offers solid defense skills, but he doesn't have to do enough damage. And he was more so designed to be an escort officer of a fighter plane and be used in conjunction with Liberty bombers. But now that the everything has changed with the bombers and the base resistance against bombers, and it's now the skill tech tree there, and now that ATGs are coming in with AA mode, this is gonna. I really got a feeling he's gonna fall off, and he would be go down to a C class officer. Witcher. She comes out at San Francisco. So once she comes out, she is a very good officer. I recommend her on fighter planes. She is awesome in a pairing with Silver Comet. And the reason why she's so awesome is because of her shielding. She does a great job at shielding and survivability and dodging. So I recommend her to anybody. And like Winter Huntsman, you can awaken her within the Conquest store. So keep that in mind. Do not waste universal statues on her. Be patient, go through the L4s, and just keep leveling her up as you go. Now we're going on to 182 days. And now I can't remember all officers who are 182 days, but I'm going to rank them as I go. Steel Fighter, S class, I'll explain why in a second. She's S class because she offers a very high shield and works great with Spanner on field fighting and on base to base. And also, when she is in the base garrison, she reduces the amount of officer skill damage being released onto your base. So by 30%, and that's huge because that more survivability, that's better, and also with our bases being paper mache, it's also good too. Valkyrie, S class, hands down, one of the best helicopter officers in the game. You want to awaken her as immediately. She is like Antonina 2.0, but for a tank. Awesome. She's good on MBTs, lights, helicopters. Amazing officer. Golden Eagle, perfect pairing for any unit in the game. He does a ton of damage, and his unique skill, and he is S class. S class all the way through. You cannot replace this officer. He's one of the most valuable officers in the game, and I will give you an explanation why. His tactical skill does 1500 damage coefficient with 80 when awakened, 80 additional damage per 100 millimeters of armor. That's huge. And he also does a lot of attack skills, crit damage being one of them. But we're going to look at his fourth skill, which is the most valuable. I'm sorry for the noise. I have someone pulling into my driveway, which is very annoying because they're not supposed to be doing that. So I apologize. We're going to wait for them to leave before I continue. So, as you can see on skill number 4, he offers a damage resist buff of 15%, but the unique thing here is that he offers a base damage resist buff, and this skill can be shared to another officer, giving your base a 20% damage shield. So this is why I'm rating him as S tier, because no other officer does this and you can't share the skill. There's Vox, who's 300 days, and she gives you a 30%, but you cannot share this skill. However, with the base damage resist, now you have 20% damage, base damage resist, and that is huge. His Firestorm skill, the Awakened, does a 20% extra damage to normal attacks, and they even ignore damage resist. So this is a very powerful passive skill. So when in conjunction with him and Valkyrie, or him and Guardian of Truth, or him and War Machine, or even him and also Tip of Spear, or any other officer pairing you can think of, he is going to be a very solid officer. S class all the way through. Now I have Providence. Oh, he's a 300 day. We're going to come back to him. My apologies. Iron Bastion. Iron Bastion is a 182 day officer. He would be great for infantry, and he has decent skills that can be applied to your skill tab, but he is C class for me all the way through. I'm not even going to really go through and talk about it too much because I don't use the infantry, and he would be good for tanking structures and bases, and pretty solid in a field fight because he adds tankiness. But other than that, I wouldn't recommend him C class. Berserker Bear. Now this officer is very good. He is great on a rocket launcher because he gains extra skills from that. He also has a chance of decreasing the prep time of his officer skills with his fourth skill, which is very good. He has very good damage coefficient on his tactical skill, and he also has a chance to set people on his enemy units on fire with his awakened skill. So I really feel he's underestimated. He's like an Eruptor 2.0, but better, and he was more geared towards field fighting. So I'll give him a solid A class because his skills are very good. He could be used, and he's pretty damn valuable, but he doesn't really fall off at 300, but a lot of people underestimate him. Woodcracker's 300 days, so we got to come back to that. Yep, another 300 days. Another 300 days. Let me see this one. Yep, 300 days. Okay. Going on, we're just going to go through and look for the 182 days, so I'm just making sure. So please bear with me. Ah. All right, as I was saying, El Cartero. El Cartero is an S class among bombers. He has a unique ability of stopping opponents and freezing them in place and setting them on fire for tick damage. Very powerful. Is insanely good. I have not awakened him yet because I've been highly neglecting my Air Force. I will be working on them soon. He would be best paired with Brisk Eagle or Rictus Reaper, the exclusive lounge officer. But the second best pairing I would do with Brisk Eagle because of the chance of critical striking is very high with Brisk Eagle, and it's very good and effective. His skills are just on par and very good, so I wouldn't even need to do more explanation. Polar Phantom, one of the strongest officers in this game for fighters. I recommend him with Blade Wing, who opens up at 300 days. We'll talk about Blade Wing in a minute. He does a phenomenal job. He's meant for taking out other fighters, so utilizing the intercept of like a Vanguard bomber and going weaving in and out of combat would be best. He's a fighter killer, not meant for preventing bombers, but he's meant to help clear the way and prevent other fighters from taking out your fighters. Oh wait, I missed the legacy officer, Silver Comet. Silver Comet is very good. He is best paired with Witcher because he needs to be built up with Witcher, and he provides very solid skills. And if you have Tip of Spear deployed on your infantry, on well, not any infantry, but I mean like any unit on ground force, he does additional damage. He's very solid, very good. I'll give him an S class. So him together with Witcher, S class. Polar Phantom is an A class, or well, actually I would rate him as an S class. And there we go. Now we're going to go on to the 300 days. Eye of Providence, he's a 300-day officer. He is an S class for your artillery. He reduces the prep time of your skills. He increases the he increases he does 10% extra damage on his tactical skill. He does additional damage to fortifications, which is good, and he also does additional firepower when fighting outside of your alliance territory. Very good. Very. He's like a cheat code, according to all my friends who use him, and they highly recommend awakening him and put together with Antonina or Lady Liberty and used on an RL or a rocket launcher unit. Yeah, and you can see when in his awakened skill was the cheat code. When in an artillery troop, skill damage is increased to damage dealt to bases by 40% for all officers in the troop. So between him and Antonina, that's a huge amount of skill damage, and you can increase that damage even further with the skill tab system. Let's see. Who's the next 300-day officer? Whipcracker, S class. She is S class because she has the unique ability of increasing the retrain time. She is good on tanks, helicopters, and so forth. She does solid damage. She is a defensive officer, and she is the makes things so much more forgiving if you're micromanaging your units, because when she's awakened, every time you go to engage in combat, she gains a shield of 500 damage coefficient for 4 seconds. So that means you engage, you hit your opponent, you back off, you hit him again, and each time you're gonna have 500 damage shield, and that's huge. And plus, if you do manage to lose a troop because you overextend yourself, you have a 10% retrain time, and she also increases where is it? The troop speed by 10%. So that puts you even more effective on the battlefield, because now you can get to and from A to Z. So if you're running a Vanguard helicopter or a Vanguard tank, MBT, this unit is going to help you bridge the gap between the speed of a Liberty tank or an RL unit or a light tank and help you catch them. Same with the Vanguard helicopter and the Martyr helicopter. Also, she might be very effective on a Martyr MBT, because Martyr MBTs have a very slow retrain time, and this might be very effective there as well. Argent Flame, he is an S-class officer, and I'm going to explain why. He has to be one of the only troop leader officers in the game other than Tip of Spear, and he gives an additional 25% damage, I believe skill damage to his aid by 25%. That's pretty significant. So that means, like, if I had, say, Golden Eagle with him as the aid, 25% of 1,500 is roughly like 350 points of damage of coefficient. That's pretty damn good, and his damage still scales, so that's an extra 80 per. So this would be an awesome pairing with him on defense on an ATG. He gains extra garrison damage. He does extra officer troop damage when garrisoned. He gets a damage resist skill, which is kind of weird, but it's one of the highest damage resist skills in the game. Only him and Lady J have a 20% damage resist skill. He also does a firepower increase for artillery, and also his skill will attack when awakened 3 additional units. Very powerful, very good. We missed an officer, so we gotta backtrack. Lady J. Lady J, it was kind of forgotten about, like Berserker Bear. As soon as she came out, then Valkyrie came out. And a lot of people, as you can see here, I still want to prioritize her because she's very good. Her number 4 skill is just like Argent Flame, does a 20% damage resist, very good. Her main skill is very good as well, because it slows down your target so that you keep tacking them. So this would be a very good officer for like a light tank or a helicopter in conjunction with, like, I would say Whipcracker, or even like Guardian of Truth. She also has a crit damage. She also has a skill where she has increased firepower when she's within Alliance territory. And her Awaken skill also increases your troop damage, and also your speed by 15% for 6 seconds. So you put her with Tip of Spear, and you'll always have this up and running at all times, because he reduces skill damage. The prep time by 1.5 seconds. So you pretty much will always have that up. Next, we're going to talk about is Vox. A lot of people dislike Vox, I feel, especially within my alliance, and they don't understand how important she really is. I won't be able to awaken her for a while because I have other priorities right now, but she's a very good officer, meant to be sitting on your base as a support officer, helping boost your base defense. And this is meant that eventually, once you have a full setup, meaning 5 ground troops, you're eventually going to want to build a defensive setup, meaning howitzers, ATGs, or rocket launchers, or whatever you want for a defensive setup. She's going to be there to contribute with this, because her tactical skill is gives the base a 30% damage resist buff. That is huge. Let me explain something. If you max out all 4 of your fortified walls to literally level 200, and you combo this skill with Golden Eagles 50%, you will almost have the same amount between 2 officers as equal to the walls. So that means you'll have 100% base damage resist right there on that buff. That's before counting camp buff. That's before counting research buffs like in advanced combat. That is huge. That is a huge thing to consider. She also has an awesome balance skill in skill 4, where they both gain at the same time. She has a unique silence skill that reduces the enemy's it's called fatigue, but what it does is it reduces the target's firepower. She has a pretty good damage buff for when garrisoned, but overall I want to say she's an A class because she's got to be used very situational. Also, her other part of the tactical skill is when she's out in the field, she increases damage resist of nearby troops. Thorn Countess. Thorn Countess, as you can see, I haven't unlocked her yet because I haven't started on fortified walls because my priorities are in a different spot. She is the second officer that offers shielding. She's very good. And she also reduces troop damage from officer skills on the troop you're using. And she also reduces damage to base when garrisoned. And the base will also gain a shield. So a lot of people like to combo her with Steel Fighter. So they'll put Steel Fighter first, plus, Thorn Countess. That shield goes up. Now you have a 3,500 skill damage shield. And the base will receive 30% less damage from officer skill damage and 10% less damage from normal attacks. It's a very solid officer. I've seen her used in combination with Spanner. I've seen her in combination with Valkyrie. I've seen her in combination with Golden Eagle. She's a very solid tank officer. Now, like I said, I'm not going to touch on the exclusive officers because they take too long to awaken, but they're all S class. And the reason why they're all S class is because they're all insanely powerful. They're all really good. Like Lady Liberty gives you an extra map grid. She does the most skill damage in the game out of the box. Professor Payne, a lot of people praise him because he does so much skill damage and he has very little weaknesses. And then there's Rictus Reaper, who is like the insane bomber. He does a lot of good damage with the bomber, and he would be best paired with El Cartero. So this is going to be it for the video. If you liked what I said and you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Also, please keep in mind, this video is from a field fighter's perspective, and with Lilith going into more field fighting than base to base, this is why I geared this video this way and put different values, as you may see from other content creators. And I'm sorry for the if this video was a little bit lacking as far as presentation. Please keep in mind I do all my recording, including my thumbnails and everything, via phone, and this is just a screen recording. So this is the best I could do at the moment. I am looking to upgrade my setup, so please bear with me. Thank you again for all your support. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have a great day. Peace. I got your 6.